All right, so uh ever been to a steakhouse?
Or like even the grocery store, and you
Yeah.
see those like perfectly cut steaks.
All like neatly
Yeah,
packaged.
like who is doing that?
Who is behind all that?
That's the meat cutter.
It's kind of amazing, right? It's
Yeah.
like an art. Today, we're diving deep into the world of meat cutting.
Yeah.
We've got this really cool career guide from RoleCatcher, and it's not just about, knowing how to use a knife.
Right.
It's way more than that.
It's really a lot more complex than I think most people realize.
We're talking serious
Yeah.
skills, physical demands, and believe it or not, there's some really interesting opportunities there.
Yeah, it's funny. I've looked at a lot of different career paths, and meat cutting is one of those where it's like high demand, but also you can really build a future.
Mhm.
That's not that common.
So let's get into it. What does a meat cutter actually do all day?
Okay, so think about it. You have a giant side of beef.
It's got to be huge.
It's massive. And they're taking that and turning it into all the cuts of meat you'd see at the counter.
Yeah, and it's not just like hacking away. The guide mentions precision and stamina
Yeah, you gotta have both.
and the environment. Let's just say it's not for everyone.
It's intense.
The guide literally says noisy, cold, and wet.
Yeah, and you gotta be okay with, the sights and smells.
Definitely not your typical office job.
No, not at all. But, there is a certain energy there, right? Like working with a team, everyone moving fast, the sounds, the smells. It's an experience. You
Yeah.
gotta be tough, though. Long hours on your feet, lifting those heavy carcasses.
Okay.
It's physical work.
Okay, so maybe not for the faint of heart, but for the right person.
It could be a great fit.
So let's talk about the good stuff. What are the upsides of being a meat cutter?
Well, for starters, it seems like a pretty secure gig. I mean, people are always going to need to eat.
Right. You're not out of a job if everybody needs you.
Exactly. And the guide was saying that it's not something that's like easily replaced by robots.
Yeah, it's a really specific skill set.
You can't just program a robot to do that.
Exactly. You try getting a robot to like perfectly French a rack of lamb.
Yeah.
It's all about, feel and experience. Plus, I think people, they like knowing that their food is being prepped by a real person.
Yeah, that human touch. It matters. Plus, you don't necessarily need a 4-year degree for this.
Nope, you can learn on the job.
That's huge for, people who aren't into the whole college route. Big time. It's more about apprenticeship, working your way up. You start with the basics, and then you can really start to specialize.
Okay, but the guide also talks about, the physical demands, the possibility of getting hurt, and some of the tasks being kind of repetitive.
Yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure. I mean, you're on your feet all day,
Mm-hmm.
handling sharp knives.
Yeah,
Safety's huge. Got to be really aware of your surroundings.
makes sense.
And the repetitive stuff, it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly. It's about mastering those movements. You build up speed, precision. It can be really satisfying, like you're honing a craft.
It's like an art form almost. And speaking of getting really good at something, the guide mentions all these cool specializations, like you can become a deboning expert or focus on sausage making. That's pretty neat.
Oh, yeah, totally. There are tons of different paths you can take.
So you start with the basics and then get to like really zero in on something specific.
Exactly. If you're into like the art of charcuterie or you love making sausages, you can actually build a whole career around that.
That's so cool. But how is all this, new technology affecting things? The guide talked about automation, and I can't help but think about those, robot arms you see in factories. Is that the future of meat cutting?
It's a good question. And it's something that's definitely shaking things up. We're seeing more and more automation, like laser cutters, even some robotic systems for portioning.
Wow.
But, even with all that, you still need a human touch.
Really?
Oh, yeah. For the specialized cuts, the quality control, no robot can replace that human eye, that human judgment.
That's reassuring.
And that's why this guide's emphasis on continuing to learn is so important. You have to keep evolving, keep learning new skills, because that's what's going to make you irreplaceable.
So it's not about like fighting against the robots. It's about learning how to work alongside them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And using that tech to your advantage, makes you even better at what you do.
Smart. Okay, so say someone, really goes for it, learns the ropes, becomes this amazing meat cutter, but then down the line decides to try something different. What then?
Well, that's the cool part. A lot of the skills you learn as a meat cutter They're totally transferable.
It's like you're saying, it's not just about the meat. It's about what you learn how to do while you're there.
100%. You learn precision,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean, you're working with incredibly sharp tools.
Yeah.
You make a wrong move.
Yeah, there's no going back.
No, not really. You got to be aware. You got to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And the guy talked about teamwork too, right?
It did, yeah. It sounds like you're part of a team working together in this fast-paced, intense environment.
Totally.
Yeah.
You got to be able to communicate. Got to be able to rely on the people you work with. And when things get tough, you got to stay calm, focused.
So we're talking about skills like attention to detail, working under pressure, teamwork. Those are useful anywhere.
Exactly. Think about it. Surgery,
Oh, wow, yeah.
being a chef, even like an electrician or a mechanic. Those jobs all need those same skills. You're not just learning how to cut meat. You're learning how to work, and that's valuable.
That is valuable. Wow. This has been, I'm telling you, eye-opening. We knew it was more than just, cutting meat, but
It's the whole world.
it really is. There's so much to it. So to wrap things up, it sounds like for the right person, this could be a really solid career path.
Oh, absolutely. If you're not afraid of hard work, if you're looking for something where you can learn and grow, this could be it. Plus, you're learning a trade. That's something nobody can ever take away from you.
Exactly. And who knows what the future holds, right? Like, we talked about robots, but maybe there are other things coming down the line, new ways of doing things.
Maybe there's a whole new way to cut meat that we haven't even thought of yet.
That's the beauty of it. You just never know.
Yeah.
Well, this was awesome. Learned a ton. Always fun to dive into a new career path.
Always something new to discover.